Hi, I'm Andrew Stevenson, and in today's video we're going to be making a colouring book. Now, I'm not a huge fan of colouring books in KDP. The paper's too thin for a start. The ink, the colouring ink that people are going to use soaks straight through them. I've read a lot of poor reviews. There are ways to kind of negate that a little bit, but even if you were to use the thicker paper from the premium colour section, I think it's 10 GSM thicker, it still doesn't hold a felt tip. But, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, set the document. I'm using 8.5 by 8.5. I'll change that to CMYK, even though we're just going to be using black ink. Margins. And bleed. I've been thinking we don't technically really need the inner bleed, because that's the edge of the page. It gets cut anyway. And if you look at the bleed guides on KDP, it doesn't give you an inner measurement, just the outer. So I'll just knock that off and see if it makes any difference. So this is the document. As you can see, the bleed around the 3 pages. And we will be working in the master page just to set up the initial book. So the idea of this book is it's going to be an image in the background with a quote in front. You've seen loads of them before. The reason this is a good idea if you are going to do colouring books is because, firstly, it makes your book different to others, as long as you use original quotes. Secondly, it kind of gets around the potential copyright issues and licensing issues. Some websites say you must edit the image. You can't just use it as is. And we are going to be editing it anyway, because the images I'm going to use are colour, and I'm going to take the colour out of them. But adding a quote, it's all about adding more creative elements. I think that's the word that most of these sites use. The images and the font I'll be using are from Creative Fabrica. I'll use a link in the description. It's an affiliate link, so if you use it, I get a little bit of money. And thanks to whoever's done that so far, because I have got some earnings, so thanks for that. The theme of this book is going to be a parenting book, but a humorous one for new parents. It's not going to be something like that feeling when your child says "dada" for the first time or whatever. It's going to be a humorous one. It's going to be called "What's That Smell?" Now, I don't have any kids myself, but I do have lots of nieces and nephews, and I can confirm that they produce one hell of a pong. So what's that smell? I think it's funny enough and different enough for people to want to buy it. We are going to be working on just the right hand side of the master page, and we'll leave the other page blank. That way, people are only colouring on one side. If the ink bleeds through, it won't ruin the image on the back. That won't stop it from bleeding through the rest of the book, but it's just one of those things you can do. The first thing to do is to drag an empty picture frame over the entire image, including the bleed. This is where our patterns will be held, and then we're going to add a text box to hold the quote. I will set the text format up, so I want it centerized and aligned to the middle. The font I'm going to use is not that one, is Balloon Craft. Change the size to 50. Remember, set all this up in your master page so you don't have to mess about in the rest of the book. I also want to, with the text box selected, go to Effects, go to Outline, make it as big as you can and change the colour to white. Now that's it for the master page. I'll just add a few pages so we're going to make something together, and you can see what it will look like. So page 1 will be the title page. Page 3 will be the first page with a proper image and a quote on. Page 4, which is the flip side of 3, will be blank. So remember, I will link to the description for the images I've used. I will just do one more thing actually. I'm going to align that text box because it didn't look sentinel. Again, do it in the master page. So to add the image, select the image on page 3, the image frame, place image tool, and then navigate to the folder where your images are. I'm using vectors because vectors are just better quality anyway, but also these are colour and I want to remove the colour from them. So this is going to be the general flavour of the book. Monsters, because kids are little monsters. Actually, the little buggers, but you can't have a title with bugger in and advertise it, I suppose. And the first thing we're going to do is remove the colour from this image. To do that, just double click, and it opens it up. Affinity Publisher opens it in an embedded window. Now we can edit the image, and any changes will affect the main screen without messing up anything else. So there are a few different ways to recolour or to remove the colour from a vector image. The first is to, with everything selected, click on the fill, change that to white, click on the outline, change that to black. That's for the stroke, and then you can change the stroke width in the stroke window. But because this is a slightly different type of image, it's still vector, but the actual outline is a curve, it's a shape rather than just a line. So that's why the outline looks doubled there. Really, in an ideal world, I want all this to be black. It's fine as it is. This is just another thing for the people to colour in, but I want mine to be black. So I'll just quickly undo that recolour. And to do what I want to do, I need to find out which of these layers is the outline, and I know for a fact it's that one. If I remove it, you can see. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to select all, like we did before, and change the fill to white, and I'll click on the curves, which I know is the outline, and I'll change that to black. I will also just remove the colour from the stroke because I did that by accident. And that's the image there. Perfect black and white image, a nice thick outline. Remember, if you want to do it the first way and just have a thin outline, do it as I chose there. Mess about with it. Your image, the image you use, might be a different setup, in which case you'll have to use the outline and stroke fill options. But I'm happy with that. No, I'm not, because I did that in the master page. I should have done it in there, I do apologise. So I'll quickly do that again. So select, insert image, 1, double click, there we go, and it is as quick as that. Next we're going to add the text to the picture frame, and this is where you'll see why I did the outline in the master page. Set up that white 100 pixel outline. So the first one will be, what's that smell? Come on. Now if I didn't have that white outline on, I'll show you in here. The text would be lost. Now you can, if you wanted to, you could draw a shape round. If you want to, instead of having that outline, you could have a shape. We'll have a cloud. Just change the colour to white. And then put it below the text frame. If you want to, you could use a shape instead of the outline. I think the outline's better because it allows you to have large and small quotes without having to have a massive flower around it or a massive shape. Just undo all of that. And that's it. Simple as peas. We'll do another one quickly. So again, select the text, select the picture frame, images, and double click the image. Change the outline back to black. And then this one can be Ask Your Dad. And that's the basic premise of the book. A nice image that looks like it's going to be fun to colour in, and then a funny parent related quote. Now we have the issue of felt tip pens bleeding through the page and ruining the image underneath, and if you had an image there, it would ruin that. It would bleed through some of these pages, and people don't want that in a colouring book. There are options that kind of help a little bit. Firstly, leaving that blank page will help. If you don't have an image there, it means that the worst of the bleed won't affect any images. Secondly, you can recommend that people use either coloured pencils or lighter pens, not big heavy markers. You can get lighter inked colouring implements. I'm a fan of just recommending coloured pencils. You could also tell people that, put a sheet of paper underneath each image, warn people that it might bleed, basically give them warning, and then kind of negates any potentially bad reviews. So if people are colouring in that, if they stick a normal sheet of paper underneath that page, the bleed will go into that paper rather than the image underneath. Another thing you can do, because it'll look ugly with the reverse of that bled through on the page underneath, and it costs you no more money to do this, is to have a black rectangle underneath. That'll hide any ink that bleeds through. It won't stop it, but it'll hide it. It might make it a little bit more stylish. The other thing to consider is, though, because the paper is quite thin, there's a chance this black rectangle might be seen through the front of the the white page. It won't make it look distorted or anything. It might just make it look a bit dark. So imagine if this black page is on the back of this image on the reverse, the other side, it might just make this image look a little bit darker. So that's some advice and some techniques on how to negate the bleed through, but if people use felt tips, it is going to go through the pages. And as I said before, even if you were to use the premium print option, that does use slightly thicker paper, but it still goes through. And I have tested that on one of my craft paper pad books that is premium colour. I coloured in a little bit just to see how bad the bleed was, and it's pretty bad. So me personally, I'm not a fan of making these, but they sell massively well. So maybe I should, stop being concerned about negative reviews. So that's nearly the end of this video. I do just want to show you something for the cover page you could use. Because the images we're using are already coloured, you could use it as your cover as well. So pretend this is your cover as opposed to page 1. This is the cover of the book. You've got your document nicely set up. The left hand side, pretend the back cover's over here with nothing on, or another coloured image. This is going to be the front of your book. Have that the way it is, and then what's that smell? Let's put the American here. A new parent colouring book. And that can be part of your cover design. Well, maybe have a nice little frame around the outside, whatever. But you can use the images that you've got for your colouring book for the outside as well, for the cover. Colouring books sell really well. This is a fun, targeted version of that. Something a little bit different to, the normal inspirational quotes or, swearing, stuff like that. And I think these images work pretty well for it. You just repeat this technique over however many images or quotes you have. This pack that I downloaded has 20 images in it. Find yourself 20 quotes and you've got yourself a 20-page book. Now you might want more than 20. Me personally, I would. The guy who made these also has another 4 or 5 packs which are very similar in tone. You could mix and match. Get yourself 50 pages as long as you had 50 good quotes. One more thing you can do, you could change the text colour to white and change the outside to black, and that gives them something to colour in, something else to colour in, and then change these letters to whatever colour they fancy. But I don't mind black. So that is it for today's video. Remember the advice about warning people, warning customers of the potential bleed issue. You don't have to say the paper's crap quality. Just say in your subtitle maybe, recommended for use with coloured pencils. You could even recommend a certain brand of coloured pencil. Have a little disclaimer in the description saying, we recommend using a sheet of paper as a buffer between each image to stop any bleed. You could also, even if you wanted to, add a blank double page in there. Amazon do have rules on blank pages, but I think three in a row is fine. They don't have to be blank either. You could, I'll just I'll just add a couple of pages with no master page. So, page 5 is an image that they're going to colour in. Page 6 is the back of that image, which is definitely going to have inky blood on it. Page 7 would have been another colouring image, but it'll bleed through on that as well. What you could do is make light of it and have a text box saying something like so I know the ink bled through. Instead of complaining about it, why not make it into a pattern? And then it kind of becomes more of an activity book rather than just colouring. And if we drag that over there, maybe. So then you've got a few pages of buffer. The ink will bleed through there. Encourage them to draw around the coloured areas and make new drawings and new shapes. And also, so it makes it sound like it's a nice little added activity for them to do, but really it's just to protect your other pages from the buffering, from the bleeding. Sorry. So instead of having just one empty sheet behind, you've got 1, 2, 3. It's worth a try. I think it adds something different to the book. It also, covers your arse a bit. It's making a joke of the bleed, but it's also encouraging them to be a bit creative with it. So that is it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks to those who have. And please like and comment on the video. It really does help me out. Have fun creating these. I was against them just because I don't think the paper quality is great, but I think adding these 2 extra pages, you're acknowledging the font, you're acknowledging the fault, and you're encouraging a bit of creativity. I don't think anyone could be mad at you for that. It also helps swell your page count, which is great because it costs you, no more money to make a 80-page book or a 100-page book. So yes, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.